If you believe this man has gone blank as I have.
TV Crazy Man here. In this video, we take a look back at Battlestar Galactica's hilarious bloopers, crazy goofs, and some amazing fun facts like how the show paved the way for great shows like Quantum Leap and Knight Rider, whatever happened to Starbuck, and the best show of the series, and lots more. Battlestar Galactica is about humans that are on a quest to find a lost colony of humans that colonized a legendary planet named Earth, somewhere out there in a lost galaxy. Now look carefully at the screen. How did the crew of the Galactica get their hands on American technology in another galaxy, before there was even an Amazon to deliver?
You think they're onto us?
I guess in space they don't have air guitar, they have air control panels. Or Starbuck has the ability to work the controls without touching anything.
Holy frack! Apollo! They're all around us. Okay.
Here's something from the episode Lost Planet of the Gods that has me wondering. In this scene, the evil Cylon, Lucifer, voiced by Jonathan Harris from Lost in Space,
I bring good news. We believe we have located the Battlestar Galactica.
Comes into the room where the equally evil Baltar is perched way up in the air, just staring at the wall. They discuss the usual, evil plots and destruction and so forth. And then the Cylon walks out and Baltar turns back to face the wall. I just keep wondering, does he just stare at the wall all day long while thinking up evil plots? Or does a movie play on the wall when the Cylons are gone?
If you believe that, I have some land in Florida I'd like to show you.
In Lost Planet of the Gods Part 2, they used obvious stand-ins for the long shot of the pyramids, but it gave us magnificent shots that really add to the scale of the episode. It's actually very impressive that they would send a crew all the way to Egypt to get these cool shots for a TV episode. I read that they actually had a guy stand in for Jane Seymour because they had to use a local, and the Egyptian law prohibited local women from wearing men's clothing. Apparently a man wearing a long-haired wig impersonating a woman was okay though. Keep in mind, that's just what I read on IMDb, so take that with a grain of salt. Probably the safest way to smoke is to never actually light up the cigar. I would say maybe cigars don't put out smoke in space, but I have seen other times when Starbucks smoke did fill the room. I hesitate to mention smoking the last time a few people accused me of creating anti-tobacco propaganda.
You humans are emotional.
On the episode, The Long Patrol, it looks like Starbuck is about to land on a planet that has zero plant life, but then he lands almost on top of a green bush. Well, don't worry, I'll talk about the things I love about the show after I get through the goose.
I may not find your incessant talk fascinating.
Pantera, I doubt if I'd be given an enema.
On the episode Gun on Ice Planet Zero Part 2, on a world filled with clones, it's sometimes necessary for extras to put on masks. But there are times when they get a little too close to the camera. Now I almost think they should have just went with blonde wigs and left it at that.
Bye.
Absolutely stunning.
Way back on Terra, I doubt if I'd even be given a license to the 5TV.
Oh, don't get me wrong, the effects of the show were very cinematic, usually far above the average TV show of the day, but not necessarily in this case, at least not if you're viewing on the high-definition television of the day. Here you can see the wires holding up Apollo and Starbuck, who are supposed to be floating in space. I lightened the pictures up just a bit so it'd be easier to see on a small phone screen. Keep your eye to the upper left and you can see where the wire is attached to Apollo.
We're gonna have to work fast. That's why I decided to forget our tether lines.
In the episode War of the Gods Part 2, Sheba, played by Anne Lockhart, is wearing a dress before the Triad game. But on the viewer screen during the game, she switches to her uniform and then back to her dress when we see a shot of her in the stands. I guess she likes to change clothes a lot.
Hi kids, have you tried mushies? They're really delicious. They're really wonderful.
In the episode Greetings from Earth, it's so cold you can see the breath of two androids. But then you can see the exhaust coming out of a car in the morning. Maybe it's the same principle.
You are our enemy.
They must have gotten their doors from the same place as Star Trek.
Let us remember him not only as a warrior,
Rifleman star Paul Fix has the most challenging role an actor can face. He has to play dead in this particular scene. Breathing always tends to give an actor away, but what can you do? Did you know that there was a monkey inside the Muppet costume?
Felga carb.
Not easy now. Come on, we have to keep him.
Do I do something?
No, you wait.
Think you'll come to it as a... Think you'll come to it a...
Commander, another Cylon sighter approaching. Commander, another Cylon sighter approaching.
Think he'll come to it on his own. Think he'll come to it. Come to it on his own.
Hey, is that Glenn Larson?
See? Nah, that's Soupy Sales.
I love you.
The last Battlestar Galactica leads a ragtag fugitive fleet on a lonely quest for a pickup next season.
When the series made a comeback in 1980, the format had changed just a bit with changes in cast, and with the Galactica finally finding Earth. In this scene, featuring Troy, aka Boxy, grown up, played now by Adam 12's Kent McCord, and Dylan, played by Barry Van Dyke, son of Dick Van Dyke, the two visitors from space ride futuristic motorcycles that fly. But before they take off, you could see one of the wheels wasn't moving. Probably because at this point the two actors and their motorcycles were on a trailer for easier filming. They threw in a lot of awesome elements in the first few episodes, including time travel where they went back to World War II, which leads us to this interesting goof. First we see the Nazi soldiers discussing the usual evil plots to win the war when they all head for the bunker, and suddenly we see a huge crowd. Then from another perspective the crowd has shrunk, including very noticeably one woman in the gang has totally disappeared.
Believe it or not.
The situation did not compute.
They use the same type of wiring in this season, which you can see easy on TV today, but then it probably blended in really well back on television sets back in 1980. I lightened it up again so you could see the wires a little more easily.
By your command. I'm sorry if you are displeased.
Hey, you want a lift?
Laura Parker from Dark Shadows is coincidentally dressed as a vampire for Halloween.
What an interesting coincidence.
When she calls out the two Cylons. Notice she has regular teeth, but when she gets out of the car to greet them, she has fake vampire teeth. Now can you imagine somebody stopping a car to greet strangers at night these days?
So I just fired.
Now let's look at some awesome fun facts from Battlestar Galactica. Donald Belisario, creator of Quantum Leap, was one of the writers of Battlestar Galactica and was supervising producer of Battlestar Galactica's episode Experiment in Terra, which had many elements he would use in Quantum Leap. In that episode, Apollo takes the identity of another person, but everyone that sees him thinks he looks like that other guy, just like Sam Beckett would appear as the person he leaped into. Apollo also interacts with someone that no one can see or hear, just like Sam Beckett was the only one to see Al the hologram. In this case, it was Edward Mulhare who played Devon on Knight Rider. Not only did Battlestar Galactica pave the way for Quantum Leap, it also gave its creator, Glenn Larson, lots of ideas and actors that he carried over on to Knight Rider. Edward Mulhare's performance as John, an angel-like being who sends Apollo and Starbuck on a mission, is pretty much exactly like his later performance as Devon Miles on Knight Rider. Dialogue and all.
Precisely. You haven't much time. Please hurry, Michael. Another life may be at stake.
You got it, I'm on my way.
Herbert Jefferson Jr., aka Boomer, played on one episode of Knight Rider, and Lockhart, aka Sheba, played on 2 episodes of Knight Rider. Oh, did I mention her mother June Lockhart played the mother on Lost in Space? I guess Space Adventure must have run in the family. The voice of Kid himself, William Daniels, did an episode of Galactica 1980 as a man dressed as a clown on Halloween. I'm still trying to figure out where David Hasselhoff was hiding on the Galactica.
I've come to collect you, Earthling.
Ever noticed a red light that goes back and forth on the Cylons looks a lot like Knight Rider's flashing red light?
Are you from outer space?
On the episode The Long Patrol, Starbuck test drove a starship with an AI brain that seemed a lot like a female Kit.
Like to see a computer do that.
You asked for it. Is this a car or a spaceship?
A little bit of both.
You know, it's almost a wonder that Glenn Larson didn't get Dirk Benedict to play Michael Knight, but then I guess he was busy with the A-Team around that time. Whatever happened to Starbuck anyway?
What happened next?
From what I read, Dirk Benedict was unavailable to return on Galactica in 1980, but he did manage to do the very last episode entitled The Return of Starbuck, which was effectively Starbuck's last known adventure. Spoilers ahead, by the way. It's interesting that the last episode of the entire series would turn out to be its best. It was a lot of fun watching the Cylon, voiced by Gary Owens, start to act human and actually struggle with human concepts like friendship.
You are a human being. We are enemies. What is a card game?
Owens was perfect for the role.
Say something, Si?
No, of course not.
If you ever watched cartoons back then, you probably recognized his voice as Space Ghost and Blue Falcon. Plus, he did a lot of narration for cartoons. In the episode Dr. Z, a super intelligent kid that gives advice to Adama, tells of his vision of Starbuck that takes us back years where Starbuck crash lands on an uninhabited planet.
Very well. I'll be leaving for headquarters now.
Yes, it was a great episode, but some of it didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Don't ever do that again.
Which was probably due in part to the fact that they would have likely done a follow-up to this episode later on. But they had to leave it as is. As it stands, we're left with Starbuck left on a planet all alone and somehow possibly being the father of Dr. Z with a woman he never had a chance, to get to know in the biblical way.
At home, we simply make a new Cylon when we need one.
She is found by the Cylon with no explanation of her origin.
Surprise! Oh, man.
And other than it's assumed she's connected to the angel-like beings known to us in the first season episodes War of the Gods and Experiment in Terra. Luckily, the episode has so much going for it with the Cylon, Starbuck friendship, and all the funny stuff going on, and even a sad ending that you don't really have time to think too much about whether or not Starbuck's strange love interest makes sense or not.
I told you last night, Starbuck, that you had to prepare yourself, for this is Judgment Day.
But you do keep asking yourself, where in the world does she come from? I sure wish we could have gotten another Starbuck episode. I think if the series would have gotten a better time slot, and maybe if they would have continued it into a sort of a mini-series format and gave the writers longer to work on the show, it would have been around a long time. The show had a lot of great concepts, even in the second season that, from what I read, wasn't as liked as much. At first, Galactica 1980 looks like it's going to be focused on time travel as Dylan and Troy chase a bad guy from the Galactica that wants to change Earth's past so humans will be more advanced and ready to fight off the Cylons. But he doesn't care who he gives the technology to in the past, which makes him extremely dangerous. Unfortunately, it's like they changed their minds in midstream. It's too bad. I think if they stuck to that direction, it would have been awesome. And then eventually, perhaps they could have gotten Richard Hatch and Dirk Benedict back on a regular basis. It could have been very interesting. But the network was just pushing everybody to go too fast and it expected instant results. And now a couple of honorable mentions. I love the joke they aimed at Chips on Season 2, Episode 4.
How come this never happens to those two guys on TV?
Dr. Z was played by Robbie Rist for 3 episodes. He's known as Cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch. On those same first couple episodes, Mr. Brady, Robert Reed, guest starred. I also think it's worth mentioning that all of the actors were excellent on this series, but I think out of everyone, Lorne Greene was probably the best. Of course, he had years of practice. He had been on Bonanza for 14 years before this series. They say he could be laughing hysterically one second and instantly composed the second they were rolling.
What sane human being would do a thing like that?
Yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed a look back at Battlestar Galactica on the TV Crazy Man channel. Please support this channel by sharing my videos, hitting like, and commenting. I think it's easy to miss new videos, so please consider hitting the bell so you can get a notification whenever I put out a new video. I usually put out at least 1 video a week, sometimes 2, or even 3 on a really good week. I would also like to remind you to check out my Frady Cat Cartoons channel for lots of silly antics and animated fun. I'll put a link to my latest cartoon at the end of this video, which is about now. So thanks for watching, have a good day, and be on the lookout for Cylons. You just never know.